Welcome to part 2 of the oldest city on the Mississippi River. Interesting that Natchez is recognized particularly for its role in the development of the Old Southwest, which is an informal name for the southwestern territories of the United States from the American Revolutionary War, or the time frame of 1775 to 1783. It was the southern terminus of the historic Natchez Trace, which means, and let's define terminus, which is a boundary or an end to a route. Natchez is strategically located on a bluff overlooking the mighty Mississippi River, making it a pivotal point of trade and commerce, which they allude to as the reason for so many cultures being represented here. But I believe that's only part of it. I'm sure there was much shenanigans going on up and down this river throughout the centuries. It most certainly was an important port along this river too. And just like the Crescent City or New Orleans, dark tales are plentiful. Two stories in particular stand out though. One being the Union Army setting up a concentration camp, also known as the Devil's Punch Bowl. This being where thousands died from hunger and disease, although that could be interpreted as a mass ritual, couldn't it? The other dark story is about an African American rhythm club fire that happened on April 23, 1940. 209 people were killed by this fire that started in the dance hall. At the time, it was the second deadliest building fire in the nation. The building was owned by the Burns family. Really? The Burns family? Out of all the names it could be. Of course, it is spelled differently. I will say that. The band that ended up performing that night was Walter Barnes and his Royal Creolians. Just ponder on that name a minute, the Creolians. That word originates, or should I say name, originates in New Orleans around this same time. The story goes there were over 700 in attendance that night at the club, with only one entrance and exit. Well, that coupled with the fact that the Spanish moss that was used as decoration all over the hall, it ignited easily, so they say, because the moss had been sprayed with flit, or a highly flammable product manufactured by Standard Oil, no less. John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil. Are they sure this was an accident and not a sacrifice? And so we know that there is at least 2 mass killings that happen in or near the Temple Mounds in Natchez. And what are the odds of that? In my opinion, it is significant. The story spins like this. Natchez didn't have a fire station, yet 4 blocks away from the club was the Phoenix fire station that assisted with this fire, yet it burned all the way to the ground anyway. The occult symbology cannot be overlooked with the Phoenix fire station, can it? A phoenix rising from the ashes kind of thing, isn't it? Well, the full story is definitely worth a read. And this fire definitely paved the way for new rules and regulations, of course. Are the events happening like those just mentioned because of the proximity of the mounds, at least energetically or spiritually speaking? I believe so. There is something to all of this. Another area in close proximity to the mounds located in Natchez is the Natchez Trace, which is a historic forest trail that runs 440 miles from Nashville, Tennessee to Natchez, Mississippi. This trail runs mostly through the state of Mississippi. What's really interesting to note about the trace is the amount of mounds that run along its course. The trace is the road directly used, I believe, to frequent the mound locations by the ancients. The narrative today would look like for us to believe the two are separate. In other words, the trace came to be from other reasons, mainly Native American, made and unrelated to the mounds. That also seems to be the running script or cover story, isn't it? There are legends about many supernatural events that follow along the Natchez Trace and is within proximity of some of these mounds. One is known as the witch dance of the Natchez Trace, and this legend goes, and I quote, that witches once gathered here to dance, and that wherever their feet touched the ground, the grass withered and died, never to grow again. Close quote. To get the whole story about the witches following a white dog, a stick, leading them to the site of the dance and feast, you'll have to check out the full story, or I would encourage you to visit their website. Suffice it to say, it's alleged that even former President Andrew Jackson noticed these grassless spots in his journal. Really? We're already back to him and witches now. And these spots supposedly can still be seen today. There are also other legends along the trace, such as the Hart brothers, who were described as the remorseless butchers of the trace and damned for eternity to wander the streets of Natchez because of their evil taste for dismembering their victims. Other legends in this location include the 3 bodies found in the King's Tavern in the 1930s while renovating the fireplace. Goat Castle has a disturbing legend about Jane Merrill, who was found murdered in her home, and includes one of the strangest tales in the history of Natchez, and is indeed a strange tale for those interested in reading the full story. The rich history surrounding the Temple Mounds provide a plethora of clues as to what the true intentions of building and usage of these earthenworks were and still are. The first earthenwork in Mississippi that we're looking at is the second largest in North America and impressive to see. Emerald Mound, with its noticeable geometric precision, is a huge clue, in my opinion, as to the size of the culture that walked these grounds practicing these occult rituals of the mystery teachings of the ancients.